Hello and welcome to Down to Earth. My name's Jen Leigh and I am an intuitive healer and guide. Now my messages don't reach very many people, so they are quite specific. So if you've clicked on this message today, the likelihood is that there is something in here that is meant to find you. Okay, and I'll just let you know how my messages come through to me before we make a start. So they come through as a series of words, phrases, sometimes little snippets of conversation, sometimes sort of like images or scenes played out in my head. And what I do then is I back it up or ask for extra information from tarot. So there's a little bit of tarot within my readings as well. Okay. Now, just so that you know, this is something exciting. I'm actually now offering personal readings. So if you go to my channel page and have a look in the description box, there's information of how to access that in there. So yeah, it's exciting. Right, so let's get into today's reading. So the first feeling that I've had coming through is that somebody is in a position where they know that something needs to change. And I get the impression that you're the sort of person who's always doing, has always got some sort of activity going on, does a lot of socialising, is always busy. There's just a lot going on all of the time. And I feel like you've come to a place where you've either realised that you need to put a pause on this, like put the brakes on, or you've been forced into that position, maybe through something like illness. I just get the feeling that you know that you've needed to take a step back from all of this that you've got going on. And you're sort of coming to the realisation that all of these things that you've been doing to keep yourself occupied is because there's a feeling of lack in there. And for some people, I'm getting that it's a feeling of loneliness. Now, when I've asked tarot for confirmation on this, I drew the Knight of Cups, if you can see him there. Okay, now the Knight of Cups shows up when we are not being totally honest about how we're feeling. Okay, so I get that is the impression with the collective that I'm speaking to today. But I do feel like you've recognised that something's not right, so you've started taking this time out to really get a feel for what it is that you need to do next. Okay, now the words that came through for me with this particular scenario are the words, "it won't matter." So I get the feeling that you've been doing a lot of worrying, overthinking things, going round and round in circles in your head. And when this word, this phrase comes through of "it won't matter," I quite often pull back to this in my own life, is that when you get to the end of your life, will you look back on this moment and think, oh gosh, yeah, that was a really big thing that I was worrying about at that point? Or will you think, God, what was I worrying about at that point? Did it really matter? So that's the first bit of advice that's coming through from spirit guides, is that this worrying, overthinking, over worrying, putting yourself out there to keep yourself occupied, distracting from whatever it is that's going on internally, it won't matter. It won't matter. And I get the feeling that some of you have pulled back and almost gone into a bit of a period of hermitage. You've pulled back from all those social things that you're doing. You've pulled back from all those activities that you're doing, and you've taken time out to start to really sit with yourself and figure out what it is that you need to do moving forwards. Now, the card that's come through next is the Three of Wands, but he's in reverse. Now, if the Three of Wands is upright, this is a gentleman who is moving forward into new territory, but he has a map and he has a plan of how he's going to achieve that. So for it to have come out in the reverse position, I feel like that you know that you need to move forwards with something, but you don't know how, and you're feeling quite uncomfortable in that knowing. Okay, now the next message that came through was in a Scottish woman's voice. Now then, I don't know if I should try and imitate a Scottish accent. Please allow me some grace with this one. I'll put a load of comments below if you think I've totally got this wrong. But this woman's voice said, "All these days on your own, you know what I'm going to say? I'm proud of you." apologies, that's probably a really bad Scottish accent, but anyway, the sentiment is there. All these days on your own, you know what I'm going to say. I'm proud of you. So somebody is getting the message through from spirit, from ancestors, that this time that you're spending on your own is good for you. And whoever it is that this message is coming through from recognizes that this has been quite a difficult thing for you to do. Being on your own and stepping away from all of those things that you normally keep yourself busy with has been very uncomfortable for you, because it's not something you're used to doing. You've stepped out of your comfort zone to do that. Okay. But Spirit wants to recognize that they are proud of you for doing that, because it's a big thing. It's a big thing to sort of, in a world where we're always on the go, to take that stillness. It's not the norm anymore, and it really should be. And the card that I got through to clarify this one is lovely. It is the Six of Wands. Now, this has come out in a couple of readings for me just recently. The Six of Wands is all about celebrating success. And in this case, it's not external success that's being celebrated. It's the success of you starting to pull back and get back in touch with who it is that you are. Okay. And on that, there's another thing that I want to say. Let me just try and pull back to it. Sorry, the energy comes through and sometimes I have to recalibrate it in my head, sort of thing. Okay, so you're being celebrated for success. Yeah, that's what I want to say. It's almost like, I'm going to pull back to this one now. So this is a bit of a knight in shining armour. Now, I think some of you are coming to the realisation that in order for change to take place, it's not looking to the external for that to happen, not waiting for a knight in shining armour, okay, because they're not going to come from the external thing. So actually, I get the feeling that some of you have been trying to work out what this change is that needs to come about by looking to the external, doing new things perhaps, or doing the same things, you know, keeping yourself busy, trying to find what it is that's going to help you move forwards. But the message coming through really strong for this one actually is that you are your own knight in shining armour. And when you start to turn inwards and really get into what it is that you need to do to move forwards, when you find that stillness, you'll find that clarity, you'll sink more into your intuition, and you'll find what it is that you need to move forwards, and you'll become your own knight in shining armour. Okay. And then the next message that came through was, it's also a mindset. So when you change what you're feeling internally, when you start to catch hold of your thoughts, turn them from the negative spin into a positive spin, you'll start to notice things changing in your external reality. It's all quantum physics, it's amazing. So the energy that you put out is the energy that you get back in. It's the law of attraction. It's, you know, you attract back the sort of energy that you're giving out. Okay, now that message of it's all also a mindset thing is asking you, is inviting you to start changing your mindset about certain things, changing your perspective on things, looking at things in a different way. So it might be that you've had some hard lessons to learn in the past. You've had times that are a bit rubbish. And instead of looking on those times as being, oh my God, that really awful thing happened to me, start to look at it with gratitude. Be like, this thing happened to me, and actually this is what I've learned from it, and this is what happened as a result of that thing changing. So I'll give you an example. I had a period of illness, like really long ill health and really ill bedbound sort of ill health, which has resulted in me not being in my stable job anymore. However, you know, I could have seen that as a really terrible thing, and I did at the time. But as a result of that, I've been in more stillness, settled into myself more, tapped more into my intuitive abilities that have always been there, but they've not been allowed to express themselves because I've always been so busy doing other things. And it's in that stillness that I've now started doing these readings and started on that energy healing journey. So that's just an example of one of the ways in which something that could possibly have been be seen as a really bad thing has moved into something positive. Now, it would have been all too easy to stay in that I am really ill mindset, but all that would have generated is more ill health, potentially. Now, I'm saying this with absolute love because I know there are some people out there that are really struggling, but this is all just about finding some form of gratitude for whatever it is that you've got going on in your life. Love and gratitude are what, the emotions that resonate, vibrate at the highest frequency, and that's the state that we are all naturally born in. And then it's all these other things that sort of start to lower our frequency back down. Okay, now with that, it's all a mindset thing. The mindset that you're being asked to embrace is the King of Pentacles. You see here, this guy is in a very comfortable position. He's got material wealth, he's got abundance, but it doesn't necessarily need to be material wealth and abundance that are going to make you feel in this energy. You know, it's all about looking at the abundance you already have in your life. And this is what I mean by the gratitude thing. You know, if you can practice gratitude and recognize what it is, what resources you already have. Now, it might be that there's actually an abundance of love in your life at the moment. You might have really supportive friends, family, partner. It might be an abundance of joy that you have in your life at the moment because you've got children that are, you know, providing you joy every day. Now, it's very easy to, I'll speak as a parent here, it's very easy to be like, oh my God, my children are draining my energy and they want so much from me all the time. But again, to spin that round, my children are healthy and happy and wanting to have fun. So embrace that. So again, it's shifting your perspective and starting to embody this King of Pentacles energy. Because again, if that's the energy that you're putting out, that's what you're going to be getting back as well. Okay, so this is a message that's coming through. All right, now the next message that came through, I think Spirit is trying to have a bit of a laugh with me at the moment, because the message that came through was, we're all idiots apparently. And this pulls me back to that very first thing that was said in this, that it won't matter. I get the impression that Spirit is saying, God, look at you all for worrying about all this stuff that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You know, you idiots, there's so much more to life than this. Get back into that higher frequency. And again, this is said with so much love. I just feel like they're having a bit of a laugh with us. It's like, come on, get out of your own head. Look at the world around you. Live more in the present. And that, it really lifted my spirit to hear that message. It was a really nice one to come through. The next one that came through was a very strange one. And I will admit I've had to look it up because I don't know much about these sort of things. Now, it was a man's voice, and it reminded me of my dad. Okay, it was a man's voice saying, it's in the E-Tech, but it's not symmetrical though, is it? I'm like, what on earth is the E-Tech? So I've looked it up and there were two definitions that came up. The first one was all about some game, I can't remember what it was, but it was all about different weapons and being able to do different things. But the second thing was about the E-Tech, E-technology, which is what Renault call their hybrid cars. Now, because this voice sounded like my dad's voice, I know that that's the definition that was intended for this one for me. It's really random because my dad's really into cars. He likes fiddling with, like, tinkering with old cars and things. So now so I've looked all of this up with Renault. So Renault's E-Tech is all about, it's a hybrid car. So it uses both an old-fashioned, they're not old-fashioned, are they? They've only been around for like 100 years or so. But it uses mechanical technology, you know, your petrol diesel engine, to power an electric system. So you're using that momentum built up in the petrol side of things to charge a battery that it can then swap to and use the force, the energy that's been generated there. I'm really rubbish explaining these things, so please, somebody in the comments, give us a more technical definition of that. That'd be great. But for my purposes, what this is all about is balance. So I feel like somebody, and this is pulling back to that giving your energy out to all of these different things to keep yourself busy. Somebody is putting more of their energy into the running of the mechanical engine, but for some reason it's not charging up this battery. So we're not switching into the battery charging mode. And this is a call to pull back and do some radical self-care. You know, I think when we think self-care, we think of things like having a hot bath, you know, pampering ourselves. But it's much more than that. It's about having boundaries in place, saying no to things that you know aren't right for you. It's about protecting your energy. And I get the feeling for a lot of you, now this is the next tarot card I got pulled up for this. It's the Ten of Wands. This is somebody who is heavily burdened, but I get the feeling that for most of you, these are self-imposed burdens. They're not burdens, you know, that are sort of necessary burdens. It's you feeling like you have to do certain things or be a certain way in order to be the best version of yourself that you can be. You know, so it might be that you are working out 3 times a week, you're taking your children on fancy trips out for the day, you're saying yes to every project at work, you're cooking all your recipes from scratch, you know, that sort of thing. Things that you are putting on yourself, which are all with very good intention, but actually you're getting into this sort of energy where it all feels a little bit too heavy. So you're being called with this this message about not being symmetrical with your e-tech, to pull back from some of this, drop some of those burdens that aren't necessary. You know, if you need to take a break, just pull back to not doing all your recipes from scratch, pull back to, you know, only taking on a couple of projects at work, or even just one, or none at all, just doing your bare minimum that you need to do to get through the day. This self-care is all about pulling your energy back to you, because if you want to move forwards with whatever change it is that you're wanting to make in your life, there are going to be sacrifices that need to be made. Now, with this, what it's also really good to do is to ask for help. You know, see if there's some of those things that somebody else could take the duty of. Or pull back to self-care. Say, for example, if it's that you are going to the gym 3 times a week and it's a really intense workout, you know, you're doing something like CrossFit or something like that, you know, something that's very high energy and it's using a lot of your energy. Perhaps swap 1 or 2 of those sessions out for something that's more nourishing, like, I don't know, going for a gentle swim or doing some yoga or just going for a walk in nature. You know, it doesn't have to be that you drop all of these things. It just, you know, it can be that you just shift the energy of it slightly. Okay, so that's what you're being called to do. Now, when I've asked for an outcome card, this one's always really scary for people, but it's one of my favourite cards in the tarot. This is death. Okay, now, death in the tarot represents change. It represents letting go of the things that are no longer serving us. And I get for a lot of you that are watching this today, that is that need to be feeling busy all the time. That's what's going. You know, you're finding more stillness, pulling back to yourself, finding a better balance in your life. And with that, there is going to be more harmony moving forwards in your life. Let me just get this guy back up. Moving more into this King of Pentacles sort of energy. Okay, so by embracing change, realising what it is that needs to give, which of these burdens needs dropping, you'll be moving more into this feeling of abundance, because actually you don't need all of those things, those activities, those, I don't know, you don't need all that stuff. You don't need to be doing all of the time to feel like you're living a full life. That's the message that's coming through, to find more balance and to sit in your King of Pentacles energy. Start living as if this is you already, that you have this abundance. Okay, so that's the end of today's reading. I hope you found something that resonated in there. I'm getting a feeling that you will have done. And if so, please leave a comment below, because it's always good to see how things resonate with people and what you've got going on in your lives. As I said before, I'm now doing personal tarot readings and intuitive messages, so have a look in the description box on my channel page for information about how to go about that. I also have a Buy Me a Coffee link if any of you feel called to support the work that I'm doing here. Every little helps. It helps me to create more content and carry on doing the work that I'm doing. So I'm sending you so much love and so much positive energy, and thank you so much for being here with me today. It's really great that you keep supporting this channel. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.